Today is another culinary technique class. We're going to be talking about intentional texture. So this week, for the bundle week, we are doing every day a new culinary technique. So I'm excited to share this one with you. We go over all of these techniques inside our brand new Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook, which launched in the Vegan Health Bundle. So if you want to get that book and you want to get all 70 things that you get in the bundle, Nate said something really cute this morning. He was like, it's on sale for $49 from $4,638, because that's how much the bundle is if you were to buy everything separately. So it's 98% off, and Nate and I have contributed 6 things to this bundle, including our new Culinary Techniques ebook, Nate's Cracker book, Make It Raw 4 that I wrote with Chef AJ, the Sushi book, Nate's brand new Full Mast ebook geared towards men, and 3 classes. We've got our 3-hour wrap making class that teaches you the ins and outs and all the things that you need to know about making the wraps. And that's part of the bundle too. So head on over to the link in my bio here on Instagram. I don't mind if you leave the live to go get the bundle, but you can come back after and watch. The replay will be up later as well. And if you're on YouTube, the link is in the description box below. So let's talk a little bit about intentional texture. So we go over this again in the Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook. We're going to be talking about 4 very special ingredients that add texture and bulk and binding to raw foods. We're going to talk about chia, flax, Irish moss, and psyllium. So these 4 ingredients are very, very cool, and they're very helpful when you're trying to get specific textures from the food you're making. So we can start with chia. Now, I know we need to buy more chia. That's all we have left, so we've got to go out and get some more. We've been so busy with the bundle that we haven't been able to really go shopping. But so this is the dark chia. There's 2 different kinds. There's a dark chia and then there's like a white chia. And white chia is really nice if you want to keep that lighter color in wraps or something, but it doesn't really matter. They're both really great. Chia and flax, so we got flax. I guess we could talk about the 2 together because they're very, very, very similar in action. The only thing that I would say is different with these 2 is when you are creating a recipe and say you're drying it out, like the wraps or crackers or whatever, flax works a lot better for drier, more crunchy outcomes. Chia, on the other hand, kind of holds a little extra moisture in it. So it's easier for more pliable stuff. So in the wrap book that we have, that's not in the bundle, but if you wanted to get that separately, that's in our PayHip store, payhip.com/rawfoodromance. We have our hand salads book, and some wraps call for ground flax and some wraps call for ground chia. And the reason being is that some wraps need a little bit more of a drying action, which you can get from flax. Some need a little more hydration coming from the chia, but they both are interchangeable. You can use either or when you're making recipes. And the reason we like to add these 2 recipes is for that bulking action. The bulking action and the binding action. So with chia and flax, they create, when you add hydration to them, they create like a gelatinous kind of mucousy membrane around them. And that is extremely healing for the gut microbiome. Flax and chia are excellent sources of omega-3 fatty acids that we need. We're lacking them in our diets, so adding more of those is essential. But they create this jelly-like consistency, very much like an egg white, sort of. And that's why a lot of people will use flax in replacing eggs in vegan and raw vegan cooking. Because if you grind up the flax and you add water to it and let it sit for about 10 minutes, it turns into that, like the white of an egg yolk, or not an egg yolk, but the egg, when it's raw, when you cut the egg or crack the egg open, you can get that texture, that slimy kind of jelly-like texture. We have a comment here. What is the website again for the wraps and crackers? Also, can the raw vegan bundle be printed? So the bundle itself this is right now what's going on is not the raw vegan bundle. There are raw vegan things in this bundle. This one's called the vegan health bundle. You're getting 70 things in this bundle, and a lot of them are hundreds of pages. So if you download a PDF and you really like it, you can certainly print it off your home computer if you want to. But there's thousands upon thousands of pages in the bundle. So if you buy the bundle and you download all 70 things, there's going to be thousands of pages worth of information and recipes and stuff. And there's also a lot of video courses as well, so you can learn through video. But if you have an ebook, you can print it off on your own home computer. That's totally your prerogative if you want to do that. A lot of people, what I've noticed, a lot of people will take a recipe that they really like and they'll print off that one page, and then they have like a binder of all their favorites. So you could do it that way too. The bundle link is in my bio here on Instagram. If you want to get the wrap book separately, it's payhip.com/rawfoodromance. And if you need me to send you the actual link, send me a direct message and I will reply with that link. Just say, I need the link to the ebook, to your ebooks or whatever, and I'll get you the link for that. And the link for the bundle if you want. You can just DM me. I'm happy to send that to you after the live. So the cracker book is in the vegan health bundle. And we do have a class in the bundle teaching you how to make the wraps. We teach the everything but the bagel wrap. And we also teach in there how to make the sprouted chickpea mash that we put inside the wrap. And it's one of our favorite recipes. So that is part of the vegan health bundle. You get to watch that class. That class is 3 hours long. And it doesn't take 3 hours to make the wraps. It's that long because we go into great detail. Questions about the wraps, FAQ, how to know when they're done, how to store them, how to fill them, different ways to fill them, how to eat them, how to travel with them, all of the little details. We also show how to batch prep. So if you want to see us do 3 batches at a time, you can grab that class inside the vegan health bundle. Again, the link is in my bio here on Instagram, or if you're watching on YouTube, the link will be in the description box below. But if you want to get our ebook separately, including the new Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook, you can send me a DM and I'll be happy to send you the link to go buy those. There is a 40% off code to get on our ebooks separately from the bundle. But like Nate said, the bundle is 98% off retail for the content that's in the bundle. Because if you were to buy everything separately, it would cost you over $4,600, but you're only paying $49. So it's like 98.5% off. So it's a really great deal, but it's only here until February 22nd, 2026. So you want to go grab it now, link in my bio or in the description box below. So let's talk a little bit more. We are going through the 4 ingredients for those who are new here, the 4 ingredients that can change the texture of what you're creating. We're talking about chia, flax, Irish moss, and psyllium husk. So we went through chia and flax. Now chia and flax, again, are really great for binders. They're great for bulking. They're great for getting your omega-3. And you can use them in 2 different ways. You can use them whole, or you can use them ground. Now I have here some ground chia, and we use the ground chia and flax in things like the crackers and the wraps, because you need like a powdery substance without using like super high fat or using flour, like grain flour or wheat flour or something like that. We want to have a flour that it creates that gel-like texture, which makes the wraps pliable. And when you're using flax, again, remember the flax is going to be really good for harder and more crunchy things. That's why we use it in the tostadas. And again, if you get the bundle, you get our tostada making class to see how we make our crunchy raw vegan tostadas. We also teach in that class how to make the fiesta rice and the guacamole and the cashew sour cream and the nacho cheese sauce. We have like a little tostada party. So grab the bundle because that class is in there, but we show how to use the flax in the tostadas because it is a drier kind of a binding agent. It also works really good in burgers, but crackers. Flax is best in crackers. You can put chia in the crackers, but again, the chia seems to be a little bit more pliable. So you basically are gonna choose whole or ground chia or flax depending on the recipe and depending on the outcome. So when a recipe calls for chia or flax, try to use chia or flax. They are interchangeable in the wraps, but keep in mind if you do change them, it might change the wrap results slightly. Like if you use flax, it's going to be a little drier. If you use chia, it's going to be a little bit softer, but it really depends on the outcome, how long you dry it for, and all that other stuff. So there's a lot to know, but I don't want people to feel overwhelmed with raw, and I don't want people to feel overwhelmed with these techniques. Really, when I share these things, it's really about you exploring them and trying them and learning from them. Like I had a video today talking about how mistakes, and this was on YouTube for those who are wondering, it's just released, mistakes are actually learning opportunities. They allow us to learn and be like, oh, that ingredient did this to my recipe, and that one was way better. I like that ingredient in here, or I used too much of this, or I didn't use enough water, or whatever it is. You're learning. And the more you experience these mistakes, I hate calling them mistakes, I like to call them learning opportunities, because the more you practice, the more you try, the more you give it a chance and learn from it, the better you're going to get at it. Just like learning a new language. When you're learning a new language, you're not expected to speak fluently in a week or a month or even a year, right? Sometimes it takes a lot of time. Repetition is where the magic happens. So when you're playing around with these ingredients, remember, don't feel overwhelmed with all the information I'm sharing here. Just take one piece at a time and implement it, and then explore it and play with it. Flax, just try stuff with flax, grind it up, add it to something, use it whole, play around with it, and that's how you're going to discover what that ingredient can do. So I'm just sharing a little bit about what we use and why we use it, so you can take notes, you can rewatch this replay if you want, and you can apply these to your life. And all of this is shared in our brand new Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook. So if you want to get that ebook, it's in the bundle. Let's move on to, so we did chia and flax, now we have Irish moss and psyllium. Let's talk about Irish moss first. So this is gel. This is the Irish moss gel. Irish moss comes in 3 different forms that you can buy. I don't have any powder with me, but imagine I had a jar of powder. You can get Irish moss powder, which you would just add water to make it into a gel, or you can get the actual Irish moss. So this is one of the ones that we have. We are not brand loyal. I know a lot of people will say like, which Irish moss do you have? And we're like, we just get whatever. There's so many brands of Irish moss out there, and all the brands claim that they're the best brand. So I just get whatever. And this one seems to be really nice. This one I just got off Amazon. I know Marcus and Kara have one. And like I said, there's hundreds of brands out there. It's really hard to decide. So I just don't overthink it, just get some Irish moss. This one is, it says raw, wild crafted, those kinds of words are nice to hear. But yeah, this one's from St. Lucia, wild crafted sea moss. So sea moss is a really cool ingredient because it's got that like jelly, silky, bulky without adding fats. It's also very mineral rich. If you are using Irish moss, I would definitely recommend keeping it to maximum a 1/4 cup when you ingest it. And the reason is not that it's bad to eat more, it's just so mineral rich and a lot of iodine in it that if you're eating more a lot more often, you can imbalance certain minerals in your body. So the recommended amount for daily use, like if you're going to put some gel in your smoothie, which is extremely beneficial for skin, hair, nails, minerals, joints, this is amazing stuff, amazing stuff. 1 tablespoon a day in your smoothie, that's all you need. But if you're making a recipe, you can use like 2 to about a 1/4 cup. That's where I would draw the line at a 1/4 cup if you're going to consume it in one day, just because that's a lot of minerals and can imbalance you, especially if you're sensitive to higher iodine, like you have thyroid issues or something like that. We have a quote, a comment from This Boat is Full, says, the wraps are super cool. I bought the wrap and burger ones. Now that I know how to do it, I make my own wraps, yes, using the very binders. I learned the psyllium trick. The psyllium trick, yeah, we'll talk about that next. The psyllium husk is amazing. And it's a wonderful thing to add to things to get pliability and fluffiness without adding fat. And we're going to talk about the health benefits of psyllium as well in a bit here, because there are people who kind of shy away from it because of many reasons, but we'll get into that in a bit here. This boat is full says, I do that. I put it in smoothies. Sea moss is the best. Sea moss is the best. It's so amazing. And this was a gel that we made. It lasts a bit of time. So here's the gel that we have. We just take, because we make a smoothie for both Nate and I, we use 2 tablespoons. So we each get a tablespoon worth. And we just scoop it out of our jar. What you do to make Irish moss gel, it's super easy. Super easy. All you do is take roughly about 30 grams, which is maybe about a 1/4 cup of the dry. Take about a 1/4 cup of the dry and put it in a jar like this. Actually, a jar more like this. You would put it into water and you would fill it with water. Fill it all the way to the top with water and let it rehydrate for about 1 to 2 days. I like to do 48 hours. I think that gives the moss enough time to absorb as much water as possible, and you get a smoother blend when you soak it for longer. You can let it go for 12 hours, and it does work, but I find it to be a little bit more grainy. And it depends on the type of Irish moss that you're getting as well. The thinner strands don't take as long to soak. The thicker strands take longer to soak. So I like to, for a general term or guide, I would say 48 hours. So you put about a 1/4 cup, again about 30 grams or 1 ounce of the moss into a jar and fill it with water and let it sit for 2 days, 48 hours. And you can set a timer in your phone so you're reminded that you have it going, and then you're gonna want to blend it. After the 48 hours, you're gonna rinse it really well, because a lot of the Irish moss comes with sand and sometimes little pieces of dirt or whatever in there because it's hand harvested, and sometimes there's little pieces of debris in there. So after you soak it, give it a super thorough rinse. Run it under some like clean purified water, distilled water, or whatever, and just really handle it well and get right in there and just clean it as much as you possibly can. Then you're gonna put that soaked moss into your blender with about a cup or 2 of water. Depends on how thick you want your gel. Usually a cup to maybe a cup and a half is usually a good amount. So, and then you just blend it up. And it works best if you do it with a vacuum blender, because then you're not blending air into it. We found that the regular blend, this is a regular blend, and I don't know if you can see all the air bubbles in here? That can actually make it go bad faster, because you get those oxygen pockets and bacteria can grow, and that's just normal part of decomposing. But if you blend it under a vacuum, you have a lot less air bubbles and it lasts a lot longer in your fridge. So we had it up to about here. It makes roughly about 2 cups worth of gel. And then you just add a tablespoon of that to your smoothies. You can add it to raw desserts to give it that silkiness. Like, it's really great added to like a raw cheesecake to give a little silkiness to it. We use it in like burgers or other things to get that silky texture. Now, one thing that you can do is you can actually soak this for the 48 hours and then use it whole in things like meatballs. So if you're making raw vegan meatballs, you can soak this whole, maybe about 15 grams. You wouldn't need a whole ounce of it, just 15 grams or 10 grams or whatever. Soak that for 48 hours and then add that to the food processor. What it's gonna do is it's gonna process it. And in meatballs, you get like little chunks of gristle sometimes, and we're talking about the animal product one. This mimics that texture. It's really cool, and we use that in our Swedish meatball recipe, which is part of the bundle. It's inside the Culinary Techniques ebook, because I want you to learn how to use specific ingredients to get specific outcomes. So we have that recipe in there, and you can make the Swedish meatballs. It also uses psyllium husk to get specific textures. The gravy kind of has that not the viscousness, but that gravy has that like collagen-y kind of texture. That's how the psyllium husk works with it. And Irish moss can add that too. So they're really cool ways to play with texture. We had a comment here. Angie is asking, can I substitute psyllium husk with flaxseed powder? Now, we're gonna get into psyllium right now. So it's a great question for this. I personally would not swap the two. They are extremely different and they don't act the same. They don't work the same. You could, if the recipe calls for psyllium and you use flax instead, you're going to get a different outcome. It's going to be a little similar, but you're adding more fats, which is fine because they're omega-3s, but you're not going to get the same flexibility. That's why the wraps have both, because you want the fluffiness and the airiness and the pliability from the psyllium husk, and then you want the gel-like kind of binding nature of the flax. And they work together. They are partners. And you know, if you leave one or the other out, you're going to get a different outcome. So it's very important to make sure that you use the specific ingredients in the amounts listed if you want to get the same results that the original recipe creator made. So psyllium comes in 3 forms as well. You've got the whole seed. The whole seed is kind of like a little, I like to think of them as little mini kayaks. They kind of look like little boats. They're super tiny. They're like the size of a sesame seed, and they're kind of like a taupey gray-ish color. And these seeds, what they do is they either take the husks off, which is right here, these are the whole husks, or they grind into a powder. Now, these are the 2 main things. We don't use the psyllium seed, that's why we don't have any. So it's not really something that we use in our recipes, but we do use psyllium husk and we do use psyllium powder. Now, before I begin going into how to use it, psyllium husk is an amazing ingredient. I want to stress that. There are people out there who are scared of psyllium, who think it's a gut bomb, or who have, you know, an aversion to it. I'm not sure why. Maybe their microbiome is weaker and they need to just build up the microbiome that like psyllium types of fiber. But the reason why a lot of people do have issues with psyllium is because of the microbiome. This is an incredible prebiotic to building the microbiome. And that's one of the reasons why it's a main ingredient in Metamucil. It's a soluble fiber. So a soluble fiber means that it dissolves in water. You can add water to the psyllium and it dissolves right in the water. It's so incredible to help the bowels move, and it feeds our short chain fatty acid making bacteria. And short chain fatty acids, for those who don't know, they're called postbiotics because they're made by our microbiome. Short chain fatty acids like butyrate, acetate, and propionate, those are, according to Dr. Will, I saw a reel that he made a couple weeks ago, he said that the short chain fatty acids that are created by our bacteria in our gut are some of the most anti-inflammatory compounds that he's seen. And these are made by our microbiome. And guess what? This is one of their favorite foods. This is one of their absolute favorite fibers. Psyllium. Psyllium is amazing. So it feeds bacteria. Specifically, I've noticed that it feeds the Roseburia bacteria a lot. And the Roseburia create a lot of butyrate, which is one of our anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids, which is linked with healing leaky gut and healing the gut in general, and it's anti-cancer as well. So psyllium is nothing to be scared of. It is an amazing ingredient, and if you are sensitive to psyllium, and if you find that there's some gut movement going on in there, it doesn't mean that psyllium is bad. It just means that you had too much for your gut, but you can work up to it. It's just like going to the gym. Think of this as weights, right? If you start off with a 1/4 cup of psyllium, that would be like going to the gym and starting with 100-pound weights. Yes, you're probably going to feel very uncomfortable and you might injure yourself if you go too hard, too fast on muscles that are weaker. So if your gut is weaker, you're going to want to start slower. Start slower with these things. Start with 1/8 of a teaspoon if you have to, and just be more consistent with it, because the more consistent you are with adding these new fibers to your diet, the stronger your microbiome will be, and then you can increase. You know, after a week or two, maybe you can increase to a 1/4 teaspoon and then work up from there. Instead of just jumping right in and doing 2 tablespoons in a day, you're gonna feel it, because your gut is gonna be like, whoa, 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 whoa. That was a little much. We're not used to that much soluble fiber at one time. So could you tone it down a little bit? So again, It doesn't mean it's bad. It just means your gut needs time to adjust to higher amounts, and that's totally fine. Just like with cruciferous veggies and greens and other vegetables, you got to give your body time to adjust, your bacteria to adjust to larger amounts, and then you can add more as you go. This boat is full says, I add psyllium husk to some of my recipes now. I heard you talk about it before. Thanks for the info. You're welcome. Yeah, you can add psyllium to anything. You can add it to dressings. And when I mentioned the Swedish meatball recipe, which is in the Culinary Techniques ebook, again, in the bundle, you can add it to things like sauces, like gravies, because it gives it that kind of like jelly-like viscous texture. It's hard to describe. You got to experience it, but you know what I mean. Like, it's kind of like a jelly, viscous sort of texture. When you mix it with water, you'll tell. So one thing that you can do if you are sensitive to psyllium, drink more water when you consume it. That's really, because it absorbs water, it also absorbs toxins in your body. So psyllium not only feeds your microbiome, but it helps to absorb any toxins that your body is trying to get rid of through the colon. So you want that. You want that fiber to help pull the toxins, to feed the microbiome. It's an amazing ingredient. I highly recommend it, and don't be scared of psyllium. Now Foods, this company right here, is an incredible company. I really love the integrity of Now Foods. Now Foods, I actually got to go to their packaging facility in Chicago when I was maybe, I don't even know how old I was, probably 26 or 27. So this would have been like 20 years ago. I can't believe I'm saying that because it just feels like it was yesterday, really. But I went to Chicago to see their facility because I used to work in natural health. I was a shipping receiving manager. So I would go I worked in a health food store, and my boss, his sister was my team partner, and she would do the ordering and I would do the receiving. So we got invited to go see the Now facilities, and it was really exciting. So I really love their integrity, and they test their products for heavy metals and things like that. So I trust Now Foods. If you're gonna get psyllium husk, get the Now Foods one. This is the husk, the whole husk. I don't know if you can see it. It's not quite a powder. It's really light and really fluffy. So we're gonna talk about how to use certain ones in a second here. They Call Me Highlight says, that stuff is great. Grind to a fine powder as needed. And yes, so if you can't get the powder, you can order this online. We get this from Winco Foods. So you can order the powder online, but if you don't have the powder, you can take the husk and you can grind it in a coffee grinder or whatever into a fine powder if you need the powder. Now, the powder is gonna weigh a lot more than the husk. And yes, you can get it in Canada for sure. I used to get psyllium husk in Canada all the time. You can order it on Amazon. It's pretty available. Most health food stores have it. It's really cool. Would the wraps be, how would the wraps be if I knitted psyllium? They'd probably be pretty dry. They wouldn't be as fluffy. They wouldn't be as easy to roll. I've made them without just to see, and I didn't like the results too much. They're amazing, but it's such a healthy ingredient. I'm like, why would you want to avoid it? It's amazing. And each batch of wraps has 2 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder. So when you make a batch of wraps, you're making 2 wraps, which makes 4 meals. So you're really only consuming maybe like a teaspoon and a half, if that, per serving. So it's not a lot. Just drink a lot of water, feed your microbiome, get that good soluble fiber in, and all is well with the world. So again, don't be scared. Add it to the wraps because it's going to make a big difference in your wrap outcome. We like to add psyllium to burgers and things like that too. Again, just to include it in our day if we can. We don't add it every single day, but we do try our best to add some psyllium in our day because we know how important it is for our microbiome. And I have very high levels of Roseburia bacteria, which produce the butyrate, and I think it's because I eat a lot more psyllium. So psyllium is really good, and I've watched my Roseburia bacteria go up over the years with my microbiome testing. Especially, it started to spike and grow a lot faster when we started adding the wraps into our life. More onions, more psyllium. I think those two together have really greatly improved our gut health over time. And I'm a huge fan of psyllium, and yeah, psyllium and onions for sure. Patty says, do the wraps use the whole husk or the powder? Great question. So that leads us into how to use the different ones. Psyllium husk powder is going to be a lot lighter. It's going to absorb water in a different way. And it's really good for things like burgers or adding a little bit of light viscosity to a dressing. So that's when you're going to use the husk. You're going to use it in burgers, in dressings, in some other things like that. I have specific recipes that call for the husk, because you're going to get a different outcome than if you use the powder. So the powder is a lot more dense. It's hardier and thicker, and it absorbs a lot more water, and that's why it's really good for the wraps. So the wraps call for powder. You want to use powder. If you're using husks, you're not going to get the same result, because they're not going to absorb as much water, and it's going to be lighter, so things aren't going to hold together as well. We want that psyllium husk powder to hold everything together really well and gel it all up and be more pliable and more fluffy, because you're actually getting more psyllium by using the powder than you would be if you were using for the same so if you're going to use 2 tablespoons of powder, you're getting more psyllium than if you use 2 tablespoons of husk, right? Because once you grind the husk, it gets smaller, so you can fit more in. So we want to use powder when we're doing the wraps, and that's where you're going to get the magic. And yes, add to burgers. It's a great way. You can add like half a teaspoon. Well, you don't need a lot. Just a little bit goes a long way. Angie says, does it kind of make it bready like versus maybe leather like? Yeah. So if you are doing like a wrap without the psyllium, it's going to be a lot more leathery and more chew, like it's going to be harder to chew. Like I know I made one time without the psyllium, and I didn't like it because it was like trying to rip through, like it just was not enjoyable. So with the psyllium husk though, it's like bread, but the psyllium is such an amazing ingredient. It's not a grain, it's just the husk of a seed. That's really all it is. It's no fat and soluble fiber, feeds the microbiome, is an absolutely amazing ingredient. I will die on that hill. I am like a huge fan of psyllium. I think it's amazing, and I think a lot of people discredit it because their guts cannot handle it, because they're not eating enough fiber variety. Their gut is weaker, so they need, when they eat it, they're like, oh, my gut is, having all these issues. It's like, that means your gut needs it in smaller amounts and increase. Just like going to the gym, you start with the 5-pound weights, and when your muscles get stronger, you increase to the 10-pound weights. Just like the microbiome, you start with a 1/4 teaspoon, and when your gut gets stronger, you can move it up to maybe half a teaspoon and see how your body goes. And it's all about consistency. The more consistent you are with eating these foods, the more variety, the stronger your gut will become, and the more of those foods you can have. I've never had an issue with it, and I use it nearly every day as well. And yes, that's probably why you don't have an issue with it, because your microbiome is like robust and they're expecting it. They're like, hey, where's that psyllium? It's loving it. So roseberry is one of those bacteria that absolutely loves psyllium. And we benefit greatly from having a large colony of roseburia in our guts. Which one would you say is the one that's easiest wraps to start with? Okay, so the easiest wrap to start with, any of them are easy, because it's basically just putting all the ingredients in the blender and blending it, and then putting the psyllium and the chia or flax, and then blending it and then pouring it. It's the same instructions for all the wraps, so they're all easy. It just depends on which ingredients you're using to which wrap. So honestly, any of the wraps are going to be easy. It just depends on what flavor you want. Now, inside the Vegan Health Bundle, we have the everything but the bagel wrap, which is the one we make the most, and not because it's easier than the others, because all of them are easy. It's just the one that we have memorized, and the one that we always have ingredients for. We always have onions, we always have dates, we always have sweet potato, and we always have apples. Those are the main 4 ingredients, and then there's other ingredients that you add too, but we always have those on hand. We always have them on hand. So if we want to make a wrap, we can make that wrap. But if we want to make something like the V8, we don't always have beets. So we're like, okay, we have to go buy beets. And, so we have to get those ingredients. So that's why we make the everything bagel one all the time, because we always have the ingredients. So we don't have to think about it. We just go in the kitchen. They're all memorized, all the weights, because you have to follow the weights for the recipe. Otherwise, you're going to get a different amount of batter, and that will either make them too thin or too thick or whatever. So if you want to follow the weights, but we have all the weights memorized for the everything bagel one, because we've made it like probably over 150 times by now, probably more like over 500 times. But that recipe is included in the vegan health bundle that's running right now until February 22nd. We have a 3-hour wrap making class where we talk about psyllium, we talk about the differences, we share how to blend, how to pour it, how to dehydrate it, how to know when it's done, how to store them, how to travel with them, all that stuff we share inside the class. And you get that class when you buy the bundle, which is linked in my bio right now until February 22nd. So you only pay $49. The bundle is on sale from $4,638. And you only pay $49. You get to download 70 things, not just from us. Nate and I contributed 6 things, but you're getting 70 downloads. Vegan content. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's summit access. There's video courses. There's Chris Kendall's raw retreat treats ebook. Raw Chef Yin has her the Chinese takeout course. Karen Ramsey has her Rawthentic book in there. There's a lot of other stuff from other vegan creators as well. So it's a great deal. Go grab it. You get our brand new Culinary Techniques ebook in there as well. Can you grind the husk into powder yourself? Yes, you can. If you only have the husk, you can grind it in a coffee grinder to make the powder, but you want to make sure that it's powder. You want to make sure that you grind it really, really, really well to get it into a powder. But you can easily order the powder online. Amazon has tons. Now Foods has a powder version as well, so it's pretty easy to find it. Do you ever drink it with bentonite clay and water? I used to, back in the day when I was dealing with candida overgrowth. So for those of you who know my story, I had candida overgrowth for 15 years of my life. From age 19, I was diagnosed around 19 with candida overgrowth, and it didn't go away until I went raw when I was 34. I'm 46 now, been raw for over 11 years, and I did everything and anything to get rid of my candida. I did anti-candida kits, I did anti-candida diets, I did low carb, high animal products, I did high fat, I did parasite cleanse, I did water fasts, I did master cleanses, I did juice fasts, I did all kinds of things. I took a lot of herbs, I did a lot of stuff because I worked in the natural health industry and I got access to anything I wanted. I had access to all kinds of different diets and different ideas and all kinds of stuff. None of it got rid of my candida until I went raw. And I think it's not necessarily the raw part that made the biggest difference. I think the biggest difference that helped me to overcome my candida was, number one, low fat. I had never done a low fat diet because I was always scared of doing low fat, because I was indoctrinated that fat is amazing and we need all this fat. But no, fat keeps sugar in your bloodstream, and that feeds your yeast and parasites and other things, right? So low fat is key. Plus your body uses sugar a lot better, a lot more efficiently when you're low fat. It's not no fat, low fat. Keeping it to an appropriate amount, which is roughly around 25 to 30 grams a day if you're eating over 2,000 calories. It's pretty simple. So low fat was key, and high variety. So I had never eaten a really wide variety of foods my whole life. Even when I was doing anti-candida diets, I was actually even limiting even more my variety because I wasn't eating any fruit except for Granny Smith apples and berries, because that's the anti-candida diet, general rule. You eat lots of protein, lots of fats, a little bit of greens, and almost no fruit, because you have to keep your sugar way, way, way down. I did that for about 9 months. And I was doing the psyllium, bentonite, caprylic acid combination to kill my yeast. And yeah, I might have felt better, but I didn't feel my best. And as soon as that stopped, my candida came back right away, because I didn't build a foundation. I didn't build a microbiome that could fight the yeast off for me. I was weak in my gut, and I have a family history of gut disease. My uncle died at 27 with Crohn's, and my mom had colon cancer. So gut disease runs in my family. That's why I'm so passionate and so into gut health and microbiome health. That's why I'm so into ingredients like this, because they feed the microbiome, and the microbiome, I believe, is the bare base of all disease. If we have a weak microbiome, we're probably going to end up with some kind of problem in the future, because the microbiome is so important to our health, and there's more of them than there is of cells of us. There's way more of them, so we have to feed them fiber and fiber variety. So when I started eating more variety, when I went raw, I was eating way more fruit, because now I was like, okay, I'm going to try the low fat way, because I had never tried it before. So I started doing the low fat, and I started eating way more fruit. I was eating a huge amount of different vegetables, big, huge, giant salads, because you have to eat a lot of volume to get everything you need on a raw diet. So I was eating tons of stuff. I was eating lentil sprouts and all kinds of other sprouts, microgreens and lettuces of all kinds. Like I wasn't a minimal diet eater. I don't believe in diet minimalism. I think minimalism is great for our closets and our junk drawers, but not for our diets and our guts. We value biodiversity in our jungles and our forests. We have to value it in our guts as well, and that means eating more variety, adding more variety into our diet so we can build a better ecosystem in our body. And when I went raw, I didn't do the higher fruit thing because fruit was super expensive in Canada. And I'm actually grateful for that, because it allowed me to focus more on greens and vegetables. And yes, I still ate fruit. I eat a lot of fruit. I'm not knocking fruit at all. Fruit is like a huge amount of our calories. We eat a lot of bananas and dates, and now we eat mangoes and pineapples and berries and all kinds of stuff. We eat a lot of fruit. But in Canada, it was way more expensive, so I ate a lot of bananas and dates. Was pretty much the base of the fruit that I would eat. Tomatoes as well. Tomatoes are a fruit. I would eat a lot of tomatoes. And sometimes I'd do berries. Very randomly, I would do some tropical fruit because it was so expensive. So I focused more on salads. I had 2 salads a day, and they were massive salads. And I think that is ultimately what helped my candida, because it went away on its own because I built my own microbiome. I didn't take any herbs. I didn't do any special protocols. I didn't do anything. The candida finally went away after 15 years just by simply eating more raw plant fibers. And it was amazing. I felt so freeing to do that. So yes, I have had it with the bentonite, but I don't do it now. I did that I think I was about 22. So 24 years ago. 24 years ago I did that. I did it for 9 months, and it kind of helped, but it didn't fix the problem. Is the husk the outside of the psyllium seed? Yes. What do they do with the inside? They usually sell the seed separately, and other people use it. They grind it. They might grind it into a powder as well. So it's the husk of the seed, but the seed they use for other things as well. It's interesting. That's exactly how I heard about the drink for candida overgrowth. Yeah, so that drink was part of the protocol that I did when I was about 22, 23 years old. And it was super strict. I was eating basically like a keto diet. The only vegetables that I would have would maybe be like a cup of broccoli or a few sprigs of asparagus. But most of my food was animal product, like just meat. I hardly seasoned it because I wasn't allowed all these seasonings or whatever. So I was totally done with it. By the time I went raw, I was 34 when I went raw. And for those of you who don't know, I'm 46 now. I was 34 when I went raw. And I didn't care at all about any of the rules or anything, because I was like, it's not working for me. These low carb diets and all these herbs and all these probiotics and everything is not working. It's not getting it's not getting the root cause, which was my microbiome was not growing. I was not feeding it fiber variety. So it wasn't growing. And so the yeast just took over, because it was like, hey, there's a lot of empty space here. Let's grow. But when you start growing your own microbiome and they start to take over, the yeast just die off on their own because there's just no room for them in there. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. I mean, I had candida for 15 years, yeast infections every 2 months. I was sick almost every 2 months with a cold or a flu or some kind of thing. I had horrible period cramps and lots of mood issues, heavy cravings. It was a rough decade and a half. I'm so blessed. I have beautiful yard, fruit trees here in BC. Ooh, I love that. Yes, yes. Off the grid reaming says, what were your symptoms from candida? So as I mentioned, yeast infections were a big one for me. I had those like every 2 months. My immune system was really low. 70% of our immune system is in our guts. 70% of our immune system is in our guts. And if we're not feeding our microbiome, and our microbiome isn't giving us that immunity, we're going to get sick more often. And I was sick all the time. I always had a cold of some kind of thing. So someone's asking, Raw Juice Mango says, did you have also irritable bowel syndrome? Yes. Any skin issues? Yes. I had severe cystic acne since I was a teenager, young teenager. They're like cysts, those big ones under the skin that hurt when you smile, they hurt, and they're like massive under the skin. I would have those all over my face. And then I have like a nerve. I have high functioning anxiety where I over deliver and I do so much and I do too much. I've been working on it a lot this last like decade. But I have high functioning anxiety, and back in the day I didn't know what that was, and I was very anxious all the time, and I would pick my face. So I would have these, cysts underneath my skin, and then I would pick it, and then it would, go all over. It was just a mess. It was a mess. I had acne all over my face. I had gut problems. I would switch from constipation to diarrhea almost every couple days. It would be one or the other. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had serious gas and bloating. I had severe gut issues. I was never diagnosed, but I believe I had all the symptoms for pre-diabetes and PCOS. I was too scared to go to the doctor and get diagnosed. But because I was working in natural health, I knew the symptoms. I knew, and I was friends with a lot of naturopathic doctors, and I would tell them my symptoms, and they'd be like, oh, I think you have PCOS. Or I think you have IBS was the one that they told me that I probably had, and diabetes, because I would eat a lot of fat, and then I would binge and I would eat a lot of junk and sugar. So it was like my insulin was like, what is going on? So I had a lot of issues, and my candida symptoms were all over the place. I was diagnosed with a candida overgrowth from my naturopathic doctor when I was 19. So, and that's where my journey started. Really, when I was 19, I started learning about natural health. I got into the natural health industry. I started doing cleanse kits and fasts and whatever. I did it all. I learned about raw food in 2004 when I was 24, but I never was able to sustain it because I would always do a high fat version because I was obsessed with needing all this fat and protein, and it was not working. It was not working. And I saw it not working for a lot of people. And I'm like, well, why do they tell us to do that? So finally in 2014, when I was 34, I was like, I'm going to not do the high fat version. I'm going to try low fat. I'm going to try low fat with a huge, massive abundance of fruits and vegetables and sprouts and microgreens and herbs and spices. And I'm just going to do that because that's what resonates with me. And I don't want to follow any rules. I just want to eat healthy food, and I want to have fun, and I want to enjoy my life. And over the months and over the years, my health has just gradually improved. And it took about 4 or 5 months for the cysts to stop coming. It took about 8 months for my period to finally be monthly. I used to not get a period for like 9 months sometimes when I was younger, and that was really challenging for obvious reasons. But I would go months and months and months without a period. And I did all kinds of things. I did seed cycling, I took homeopathics, I took herbs, I took hormone, natural hormone boosting herbs and stuff like that. And none of it fixed it until I went raw. 8 months into raw, my periods were monthly, and now they've been monthly ever since, except for the last, I'd say 1 to 2 years, my periods are getting a little shorter because I'm in perimenopause. So, they're changing with the hormones. But my perimenopause symptoms are super light. I don't really notice at all, which is really nice. I'm really just noticing, I'm a little more emotional these days, but that's okay. But yeah, those would be my symptoms. Let's see, we have some other questions in here. Thanks for joining me, guys. This is really fun. Did you experience any die-off symptoms when you went fully raw and the candida went away? I love this question because no, I did not. I know what die-off feels like because I did anti-candida diets for 15 years. I did cleanses and herbs and all that. So I know what die-off feels like. I did not have die-off when I went raw. And what I believe, this is just my opinion, because, you know, I've been in the industry for over 25 years. I have seen a lot. I have talked to a lot of people who have this too. What I believe is the reason why I didn't have die-off was because I was eating a massive amount of fiber. Fiber traps toxins and pulls them out of the body. When you're not eating enough fiber, for example, you're on a juice fast or a water fast, you don't have the fiber, the roughage to pull the toxins out of the body, so you reabsorb them. They reabsorb into the body and they affect you, like you get headaches and whatever. I mean, that's just one thing. Another thing too is I ate a lot of cruciferous vegetables, a lot of broccoli, a lot of cauliflower, a lot of radishes, radish microgreens, radish sprouts, all the cruciferous veggies, all the bitters. I eat a lot of bitter foods, dandelion greens, radicchio, and that kind of thing. The bitter foods and the cruciferous foods give our liver what it needs to fully go through phase 2 detox. Now, you have two different kinds of detox. Let me just put these away because I need both my hands to show you this. Okay, so you have two phases of detox. You have phase 1, and in phase 1, your body takes the toxin, whatever toxin it is, or hormone or whatever, and it converts it into a highly reactive substance. And this happens in a flash of a nanosecond, like it's really fast. But this is what happens. It takes that toxin and it converts it into a super hyper reactive chemical, almost more damaging than the toxin itself. Then comes phase 2. Phase 2 comes in and it uses like glutathione mainly, and it takes that toxin and it inactivates it, so it's harmless to the body. Phase 2 is the more important thing to support, and most people aren't supporting phase 2. They're scared of cruciferous, they're scared of bitter greens, they want to eat only fruit, and they're not getting these special important nutrients that our body needs to create glutathione and support that phase 2 liver detox. So what happens is if phase 1 is working, but phase 2 is really sluggish, you've got all these hyper reactive chemicals being converted, and phase 2 is like, I can't deal with them fast enough, and they're gonna recirculate. Auto-intoxication is what it's called. You're gonna feel headaches and all that tiredness and muscle aches and joint pains and all this thing that people think is die-off, when it's really you're not supporting phase 2 of your liver detox and you're not consuming enough fiber to pull those toxins out of the body. So fiber is incredibly important, fiber variety, to help ease detox symptoms. We're not supposed to feel them. We're not supposed to feel the detox. The body just does it every day on its own, easy peasy, when we support the body. If you start to feel detox symptoms, it's my opinion that you need more fiber and you need more bitters and you need more liver support to help deal with all those toxins. Another thing also to keep in mind that I have noticed across my entire career in natural health is that most people who have these symptoms, mostly symptoms like mood swings, headaches, irritability, muscle joint pain, all of those are symptoms of under-eating. They're not necessarily detox. And I think a lot of people miss that. They think they're in detox, especially when you go raw, you're not eating enough usually. That's the number one reason why people struggle on raw, is they are not eating enough calories. So if you go multiple days eating 800 to 1200 calories a day, you feel full because you're eating fiber and water, but you're not getting enough energy. Your body's going to start to break down its own muscle mass. You're going to get headaches because you just don't have enough glucose for the brain. You're just going to feel lethargic and tired, and people brush that off. They brush it under the rug and they're like, oh, it's just detox. Keep going. Keep under eating. It's just detox. And then people feel worse. We're not supposed to feel worse when we're detoxing. Our body detoxes 24/7. It's a daily natural process that our body does. All it's asking is for support. So adding more fiber, adding more hydration, adding movement and exercise and saunas and all that kind of stuff, that's going to help facilitate detox. But under eating can cause similar symptoms, and also not supporting phase 2 detox can create similar symptoms. So all that said, I did not experience die-off. For the first time in my life, I did not experience die-off. I didn't have any detox symptoms. I was eating 2,100 to 2,300 calories a day, high vegetable. I was also eating a lot of fruit. Like I said, I wasn't low fruit. I was, I would say like 50-50. But I was a lot more into the vegetables than I was the fruit, because the vegetables were more affordable. I'm a savory girl, so I enjoyed them a lot more. I love my salads, and I believe that that is what ultimately helped me not only not have die-off, but the candida just left on its own, because my bacteria grew big enough to just say like, hey, you guys are evicted. So yeah, so long answer to that question, but thank you for asking it. Do you have scarring from it? I did. I'm assuming that's from acne, hey? So I did have scarring from my acne, and for probably about 2 years into raw, because I stopped breaking out, I still had scarring, because what my scarring, like some people have like the divot scars where it kind of like goes in, like their skin didn't fully heal evenly. My healing was darker. So it was still even, but it looked like I had a dirty face, because I had patches of the acne that healed, and they would heal darker, and it would be more apparent if I was out in the sun. And it was always in the areas, my cheeks and my chin, that was where I had most of my acne. And you could tell if I would be out in the sun on a hot summer day, or when I went to, where was it? I went to Mexico to photograph a wedding, and I was in the sun for a lot one day, and I could tell, I was like, oh my gosh, look at all of that. There was like really prominent dark scars. I call them scars because they were darker skin. And again, some people have like the divot skin, some people have different kinds of scars, but mine were dark scars. And so what ultimately helped me, I believe, with those scars is, number one, the raw food. You know, staying on the raw food, that's always going to help regenerate your skin over the months and years and years and years and years, right? Your skin's just going to change the more you stick to a diet. But in Canada, about 7 months before I moved to the United States, I was going tanning in a tanning salon. I know people might not like that, but it's what I did, because in Canada it snows 7 months out of the year, and the tanning bed kept me happy. So I would go tanning for like 15 minutes. But at the tanning salon, they had an offer. If you added $20 to your membership, it was a monthly unlimited, whatever. They're like, oh, if you add $20, you can get monthly unlimited for the red light bed. And I was like, that sounds cool. Yeah, I'd love to take an extra nap. So I added the red light therapy to my tanning, and I would go tanning probably 4 to 6 times a week. I would go tanning, and I would tan for 10 to 15 minutes, maybe 12 was the average. And then I would go in the red light therapy for 20 minutes, and I would just take a nap in the red light bed. And after 7 months of doing that, almost every single day, my acne scars went away. So I think it's a combination of, you know, giving my body the nutrients to help build the collagen and build my skin. And this is one of them, the Irish moss gel that we were talking about. That's going to really help to give your body the nutrients it needs to produce its own collagen. So that was really important. But all the nutrients that you're getting in the raw food, I believe, gave my body exactly what it needed to really just heal the skin. So I'm a huge believer in red light therapy. So yeah, that was what worked for me. Just Call Me Highlight says, just want to eat, have fun, enjoy life. Yep, that's how it is. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Patty says, would adding psyllium powder to nice cream affect or even possibly improve the texture? Oh, that's a good question. Based on what I have experienced with psyllium, I would think that it would make it more like, I don't want to use the word slimy because that's not really the word, but it would make it more marshmallowy, I guess. That would probably be my best explanation. I probably wouldn't add it to nice cream just because you're getting a different texture from that, but it would be interesting to try. I would give it a shot and see. That's the whole point of the Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook, is for you to try different things, play around with the ingredients, add them to stuff, see what you get, have fun with it, learn from it, and maybe you discover something amazing, right? By just, combining some stuff. She's Ready Official says, yes, the detox is the worst, but some herbs helped. We'll watch your new video about making mistakes because that's my biggest concern. Yeah, if you make mistakes, what I say in that video is just reframe them as learning opportunities. So instead of saying, I made a mistake, say, I made a learning opportunity. It makes it more curious, more light, and less pressure, and less negative, If you say, I just made a learning opportunity. So when you say that, it's like, okay, now it's time to learn. What did we learn from that mistake, right? What can we learn? How can we improve? How can we be better? How can we avoid that next time? That's what a mistake is. It's just a learning opportunity. So yes. Can you talk, Noi, hello Noi, says, can you talk about psyllium husk and psyllium powder, which one to use in the wraps and bread making? Powder for the wraps and the bread making, because what you want is you want to absorb all of that water and make it fluffier. The psyllium husk, the whole husk, is more for light stuff, like, adding to burger patties, or you adding to dressing if you want to get that, like, marshmallowy texture. So that would be a quick answer to that question. Thanks for asking, Noi, and thank you everyone for joining me today for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, if you enjoy our content, if you appreciate what we share, please go grab the Vegan Health Bundle. It's a great way to support us, but most importantly, it's a great way to support yourself. For $49, the bundle is on sale right now for $49. If you were to pay regular price, it would be $4,638. That's what everything in the bundle is worth retail, but you only pay $49 and you get to download all 70 things that are in the bundle, and they're all yours. Once you download them onto your device, you get to keep them forever, open them whenever you want, as many times as you want, but you have to download them. You have 1 year to do so after you buy the bundle, but $49 gets you access to download $4,600 worth of vegan content, including 6 things from Nate and I. The new Raw Vegan Culinary Techniques ebook is part of that. The sushi book, you want to make our sushi, our raw vegan sushi, there's 160 recipes in there. That's in the bundle too. The Nate's Cracker book, Make It Raw 4, that I wrote with Chef AJ, that's where the recipe for the authentic black licorice is. If you are a black licorice fan, you got to get the bundle so you can get that recipe, because it is phenomenal. It's amazing. It's in Make It Raw 4. There's also Nate's new Full Mast geared towards men's health. And then, of course, we have the 3 classes teaching you how to make the wraps, the tostadas, and kale chips. And all of that is in the bundle, plus so much from other people. It's worth it. It's worth it to get it, seriously. But it ends on February 22nd. We've got Patty saying, this has been amazing. I learned so much from you, Lissa. You're brilliant. Oh, thank you, Patty. Big hugs, big hugs. I met Patty here in Las Vegas. And actually, speaking of the plant-powered party where I met Patty, all of those replays are also in the bundle. So if you buy the bundle, you get access to the Plant Powered Party 2025 replays. Nate and I did a culinary demo where we showed how to roll the wraps and we made a sauce. Chef AJ got to eat the wrap on the stage. It was really fun. And then, we had Dr. Furman, Dr. Will Bolsewicz, we had Chris Wark and Dr. Alan Goldhammer. There was a whole bunch of people on stage, and there was even some comedy sessions as well. You get access to watch all the replays from that conference when you buy the bundle. That was Chef AJ's contribution. There's also a cool contribution in there called Holistic Holiday at Sea, the cruise, the vegan cruise. They have 5 keynote speakers, Michael Greger, Chris Wark, Columbus Batiste, and then they have 2 other ones. There's one on menopause in there too. You get access to watch those as well. So again, the bundle, all the stuff in the bundle is worth over $4,600, but all you pay is $49. You get access to download it all. So it's amazing. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you so much everyone for contributing and engaging. The more you engage with content you love, the more of it you're going to get in your feed. So it's very important to engage with what you love and to not engage with what irritates you. If you engage with what irritates you, you're going to get more of that. So just scroll by that other stuff and then comment, like, share all of the stuff for the people that you love and appreciate, because that helps us to get our message out, and it helps the algorithm know that it's important to you, so it's going to send more to you. So thank you so much. Patty says, you all should buy the bundle to watch the Plant Powered Party. It was incredible. Thank you, Patty. Yeah, Patty was there in person, so she got to see everything firsthand, but when you buy the bundle, you get to watch all those replay videos and learn from them as well. There's a lot of really good stuff. Joel Furman had some talks there too. So yeah, definitely go grab the bundle. Again, link in my bio here on Instagram until February 22nd, or you can click the link in the description box below if you're watching on YouTube. And we'll be back, I believe, at 2 o'clock. So in about just over an hour, we're going to be live with Kiko. And Kiko is going to be making her Chia cacao dream parfait. So you're going to want to join and watch her do that. Kiko is also part of the bundle. She has her ebook called Namado. And she's got a few raw recipes in there, but it's basically her story, very inspiring. So we're gonna have her on at 2:00 p.m. PST, and then I believe we have another live later today as well. So lots of lives going on, lots of stuff happening. Thank you so much for joining. Again, go grab the bundle. We love you so much. Until then, ciao ciao, love you.